I have another point to add to what we were just talking about, right? I think even with Gojek's example, where Ayush, so what I noticed is that people or millionaires are migrating mostly towards Singapore, Dubai, or places where there is a strong judicial background, and things will actually happen if you go into the courts. Even Gojek is registered in Singapore, and almost every big company in India or in Indonesia and a lot of other places are actually registered in Singapore. We know about Flipkart. We know about how they had to shift the shares and what else needed to be done. Hence, the Delaware Corp also happens, right? Like the money is definitely flowing in, but right now people are preferring Singapore over Delaware too. Not everyone, but depending on the geography. If you're just concentrated to cater to the Southeast Asian markets, then people prefer to open up their companies in Singapore or they prefer to open it up in Dubai based on what it offers to you. And that also includes inflow of people. I think once more and more people start coming on, right? Like I think, and this is a trend which we saw with the crypto and the Web3 guys. A lot of Web3 founders, specifically in India, are actually shifted to Dubai or have shifted to Singapore. And that's because of the laws not being crystal clear. I think once the law stabilizes is when the millionaires or everyone as a founder kind of wants to live in that country as much.
Yeah, no, there has been in the last week itself. So we have heard enforcement directorate trying, railing at WazirX and CoinSwitch Kuber. So of course, it definitely lowered down the confidence of the entrepreneur of how he wants to conduct his business and hiring as well. So that is totally true. And coming to Singapore, of course, I think we just heard today the news that Singapore is issuing some kind of a work pass to attract top talent. Of course, the work pass is meant for people who are earning like $30,000, 30,000 Singaporean dollars per month type. So of course, targeting the cream of the cream society, but they're giving them, and but people who have expertise in the field of art or sports or research, of course, they have been allowed to live in Singapore for 5 years without any such, salary bracket constraints. So of course, that is definitely happening.
But must tell you 30,000 SGD is nothing in Singapore. Like, it's super expensive. 30,000 SGD is not a very high bar for the salaries there, I would say.
Well,
I'm sure this reverse
that's a good thing. I think that's a good thing because then you are welcoming many more people actually.
Yeah.
But this reverse brain drain is definitely happening. And I was also talking to a couple of friends. They were saying that a lot of influential people have started to shift back from the States. And we see everyday examples like Balaji Srinivasan was also doing a webinar a couple of months ago on why India is the next golden goose. And of course, we know that India is the next golden goose in the next 20 years because we are somehow being compared to China's in the 1990s, where the whole manufacturing boom came and then it was just golden for the next.
But they're talking about building it in for India. They're talking about marketing it in India. They're not talking about shifting to India, I guess.
No, I think wealth is generated when a lot of goods and services are created and costs are cheap and value at which they are sold is very high.
But the internal consumption in India still remains small.
Absolutely. What we are actually looking at is a lot of exports, to be very honest. Building cheap and exporting to high value countries. And that's why
different with China. I mean, just wanted to clarify that China does have a lot of internal, even after the economic downturn, which they were imposed upon and different things that happen in Chinese middle class grew to such a point that there's a lot of internal consumption of goods which they make.
So I think, Manik, but that happened after a certain amount of years only. In the 1919, when the Zedong governance was there, then the most of the Chinese population was on the bottom pyramid only. Around the early 2000s is when they started to see when the exports-led economy led to a lot of US inflow of dollars. That is when they started to see the lower income bracket rise to a healthy bulging middle class, like a bulging kind of a graph shape, and that's when the whole consumption started. So it took around 10 to 15 years to reach that stage before the consumption really kicked in.